Is Jack Del Rio's defense in trouble? Where it's not working as well as we thought it would, and what the possible solutions are? Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
Your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in, Commanders fans, to today's episode of Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day every day. And of course, don't forget that you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, and you can continue this conversation with me by becoming a Locked On Commanders insider just by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. From there, you can text me during games, practices, the whole 9 yards. Right now, I am not attending things in person. Still working through some things on the family side, but I will return in person as soon as I can. Washington Commanders and their PR staff have been amazing, and I appreciate them just as much as I appreciate all of you. Of course, I'm your host, David Harrison, on Twitter at dharrison82, credential member of the media covering the Washington Commanders for CommanderCountry.com, part of Sports Illustrated's FanNation, and I am here with you every Monday through Friday, along with our everydayers, and as always, I appreciate your continued support for the program. On today's show, we're opening up the mailbag. We had a lot of questions, mostly pertaining to the defense, and a lot of information that we need to get through. But I will also have a question about a free agent offensive tackle that we could be talking about. But we're going to start off today's episode looking at something I got multiple questions about on the defensive side of the ball, and that is the defense as a whole, but specifically the pass rush. So through 4 weeks of the NFL season, Washington has given up the 10th most yards per play in total. Pass and rush combined, 5.6 yards per play is what Washington is giving up. They're giving up the 7th most rushing yards per play, which is 4.54. And they're giving up the 9th most passing yards per play at 7.02. So in yards, Washington's defense has been a bottom 10 defense across the board through the first quarter of the season. Now, they also have the 21st ranked interception rate. They're allowing 19 first downs per game, and they're allowing nearly 40% conversions on third down on average, and are giving up 30 points per game as a defense. Now, all of these numbers are obviously down from last year, and they're down from where we all expected the defense to be this year when we looked at them as a potential top 10, top 8, even some murmurs about being a top 5 unit. The only rate that is up is the interception rate, which is up a little bit, but again, still the 21st ranked interception rate in the NFL. So you definitely want that to be higher. That's why you brought in guys like Emmanuel Forbes and Quan Martin. And Quan Martin is yet to get into defensive snap this season. Now, when you look at the sack rate is actually higher, even though the ranking is the same. The ranking for the sack rate is 6th best in the NFL so far. Washington finished 6th best last year. With Chase Young being back this year, you would think that number would go up, and that's what you want to see. But last year's 6th best sack rate was actually 8 sacks for every 100 pass attempts. This year so far, 6th best is almost 10 sacks per 100 pass attempts. So even though the ranking is the same, the number of sacks per 100 pass attempts is actually gone up this season. But that number is a little bit skewed because during against Philadelphia Eagles just last week, 3 sacks on 40 pass attempts. That's a 7.5% sack rate. Their total sack rate is about 9.6 for the Washington Commanders right now, so that's below the season number. Buffalo, they had no sacks on 32 pass attempts, so it's 0%, obviously well below the season percentage of 9.6. Denver, 7 sacks on 39 pass attempts, that's 18, so that's where you get your bump. And then the Arizona Cardinals, 3 sacks on 33 pass attempts, that's a 9% rate. So 3 of the 4 games so far, Washington's defense has actually come in under their current total sack rate for the season, which means that number is being inflated by 1 performance, which is that 7 sack performance against the Denver Broncos. Now, the good news is the Chicago Bears are allowing sacks on 13.82% of their own pass attempts, which is 4th worst, just behind the Titans, Giants, and the Commanders. So there is the option, or there's the potential for the Washington Commanders to actually get a get-right game here with the Chicago Bears, get some more sacks on the board, increase that sack percentage a little bit, but also increase the actual numbers of sacks that they have this season. So that's kind of the Commanders' defense in a nutshell, right? That's stats, right? So the stats don't look good, but what do we see in the stats? Well, going back through the Eagles game, because that's what I was asked specifically about, what was the problem with the pass rush, right? You see the 3 sacks, but honestly, 2 of those 3 sacks came because of Jalen Hurts. One of them was like a no gainer and -1 yard sack because he decided to run on a pass play, barely made it back to the line of scrimmage, or came short of the line of scrimmage. So it comes down as a sack, right? Only one of those sacks was really a sack that the Commanders can hang their hat on and say, boom, we got that sack. That was the one that Chase Young got early in the game. So I went back through the Eagles tape, and I went through the coaches tape, the all 22, and I went 1 one play by one play, and I looked at it all three angles. So NFL Plus, you get two angles, and that's great. Coaches Tape, you get three angles, so that's what I like to use when I get my hands on it. So the bottom line here with the Washington Commanders and the way that this defense honestly runs is they have to win their one-on-one matchups. This is why the Washington Commanders invested 4 first-round draft picks on the defensive line, because they needed really talented guys up there to run this Jack Del Rio defense, which again doesn't only rely on those 4 guys, but primarily relies on those 4 guys winning their one-on-one matchups. You hear players talk about it all the time. Just got to win your one-on-ones, and that's true. That's true in the NFL. It's true in any game. The Philadelphia Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, if not the best. And it took 10 plays in this game for one Washington Commanders front lineman to win their one-on-one. It wasn't until the 10th play of the game for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was still their first drive, and it came on the Washington 17. So the Philadelphia Eagles got all the way down to the Washington 17 before one of the defensive front 4 won their one-on-one matchup on a given play. Philly ran 67 total plays. That's a rate of 6 one-on-one wins for the game. Now, they won more than that, so that's good. That means they improved. But in total, I counted 8 one-on-one assignment wins for the Washington Commanders defensive front. Unfortunately, on the first play that the Commanders got a one-on-one win, play action sucked linebacker Jamin Davis into the middle of the field, and Jalen Hurts threw a slant right behind him with Daron Payne, who got the one-on-one win, crashing down on him. That's not a dig on Jamin Davis. Jamin did what a lot of linebackers are going to do with play action. He cheated towards the direction of the play action, tried to get back once he realized the ball wasn't with the running back. By that time, Jalen Hurts was delivering the ball right behind him. That's just a good offensive play by Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense. There are some reps where you can tell that someone is guarding against a Jalen Hurts run, whether it be Chase Young, Montez Sweat, whoever it is. The pass rush, the defensive front 4, the organic pass rush is not coming as hard as you would want them to because they're worried about Jalen Hurts for good reason. So to Jack Del Rio's credit, they did bring multiple pass rush looks. They dropped linemen. They brought linebackers, brought safeties. They did about as many different things as you can ask a defense to do against Jalen Hurts and that offensive line and the quarterback to try to get them consistent penetration. It just didn't work. The Eagles just outmatched them and outplayed them at the point of attack for much of the game. But like I said, there were 8 one-on-one wins, including that first one by Daron Payne, including Chase Young's sacks. And they got 6 more. Cody Barton came on a nice blitz through the B gap early in the third quarter to get a win for the Washington Commanders defense. Again, that's not necessarily the front 4 getting a one-on-one win, but that's a pressure that the Commanders get credit for, and they created it on their own. Maybe it's better I say they had 8 pressures that they created versus the pressures that Jalen Hurts just kind of took for holding onto the ball. Chase Young later was forced inside. Jalen Hurts escaped outside with no contain behind him on that Cody Barton blitz. So a nice blitz turned into a big gain for the Eagles because they lost contain because Chase Young was forced down inside. Later on, Jonathan Allen did a great job of peeling off of a pass rush to keep Jalen Hurts from a big gain. No real quick penetration, but the look of 6 rushers, including Cody Barton coming free, forced a hurried throw, and that was incomplete from Jalen Hurts. James Smith-Williams was in quick on a play action play, but there was no contain from the linebacker level. They got too far upfield, and Jalen Hurts ran right up the middle of the defense and got a play. Ultimately, there was another Cody Barton or James Smith-Williams play that resulted in an intentional grounding penalty, and then of course they got 2 sacks on Jalen Hurts. Facing a quarterback as dangerous as Jalen Hurts is with the legs that he has, it pushes defenses away from being more aggressive than they want to be, as aggressive as they want to be, especially in the pass rush. It minimizes blitzes and even causes some non-blitzing pass rushers to hold up and hesitate in their pass rush. On the intentional grounding play in overtime, James Smith-Williams was coming in on Hurts. He pulled up because he was anticipating Jalen Hurts maybe running away from him, and that allowed Jalen Hurts to get the ball out. Now, it worked out in that case because they didn't get the sack, but they did get the intentional grounding. But that's the kind of situation where in another situation, that could be Jalen Hurts finding an open receiver because he gets that little bit of a hesitation from a guy like James Smith-Williams. On the final play of the game, before the Eagles got their game-winning field goal, Chase Young, if you watch him, doesn't commit to his pass rush off the edge. Instead, he kind of comes forward, but then he goes back and kind of falls into not really a zone, but just kind of hangs back and says, okay, if Jalen Hurts runs this thing, I want to make sure I have it covered from his side anyway. Hurts ends up finding a receiver. The Eagles get the game-winning field goal. And I'm not saying that Chase Young, fully commits to the pass rush, that play changes necessarily, but that's just an example of what talented guys like Jalen Hurts can do against a pass rusher and a pass rush in general. They almost become passive at times because of the threat of the leg. So that's what I saw from the pass rush. That's why it wasn't as impactful not winning one-on-ones very often. Philly's quick passing game countering when they did, passive pass rushing because of the Hurts threat with his leg. What does Washington have to do to solve the problem against Justin Fields? So another mobile quarterback coming up. We're going to talk about that next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Vinny has picked out for us in this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Jets running back Breece Hall has had a tough season so far with his limited usage, but his explosive 56-yard rushing game on only 6 carries against the Chiefs in Week 4 is great foreshadowing for his best game of the season. When the Jets blow through Denver in Week 5, look for Hall to fly a mile high with his speed and explosiveness. The Broncos defense is falling apart against the run, especially versus faster backs. Expect Hall to go off to help the Jets try to get a much-needed road win. Meanwhile, Packers running back Aaron Jones didn't fare well with limited work returning from his hamstring injury against the Lions in Week 4. With some time to heal off a mini-bye, look for Jones to be ready to show his old explosive self as a runner and receiver on Monday night in Las Vegas. He will feel right at home with plenty of cheeseheads making the trip to the desert against a bad Raiders overall defense not too far down the road where Jones' star was born in his hometown of El Paso, Texas. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit, and they know that the same goes with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED lights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Thanks again for being a Locked On Commanders first listen or view today and every day. Football season is here and in full swing, and Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On NFL Kickoff Live. Every Friday, Locked On will go live at 2 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Hosts Anitra Batista, Jarvis Davis, and Kyle Krabs will break down every game on the NFL slate to get you ready for your team's matchup, your fantasy lineups, your betting angles, and more. Plus, get the in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts across the country who know these teams better than anyone else. Find Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On NFL YouTube channel. That means you can tune into Locked On Commanders YouTube channel as well to find that, and it will be up on the audio feeds as well as soon as it is done. At 8 a.m. Saturday mornings is when they'll be available on audio. The other parts of the defense. So we talked about the pass rush a little bit. Look, at the end of the day, when you're facing a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts, like Justin Fields this weekend, you got to kind of pick your poison. Are you going to sit back a little bit and let him have the time to throw? You got to trust your DBs, trust your coverage immensely to be able to do that. Or are you going to come after him and trust your contain and then trust your second level assignments? That's where linebackers really come in on this. Because if we're going to go after a dude, we have to essentially design our pass rush like an offense. So this guy's going to go up here. This guy's going to go here. This guy's going to go here. This guy's going to go here. Our 4 defensive linemen, this is where they're going to go on this play call. If that play call happens, if I'm Cody Barton, if I'm Jamin Davis, if I'm not blitzing, I have to understand the A gap. It might be the A gap. It might be the B gap. It might be the C. They might collapse. So if he gets to the edge, I got to get the edge. Whatever the defensive line, the pass rush isn't going to be able to plug as a pass rusher, I've got to now be ready and available to stop that. Now, the problem with that is I've also got to cover. You know what I'm saying? So that's where the difficulties come in. Me personally, I'm always kind of a die by the gun, live by the gun type of guy. So I like being aggressive. Go after a dude. If he gets out and beats you, he gets out and beats you. Be better. But I don't like passive defense. You know what I mean? Everybody has their style. Everybody has their preference. So that's me personally. You might have your preference. You know what I mean? But I don't like seeing 99 standing back there waiting to see if Jalen Hurts is going to run. I want to see 99 with his locks blowing in the wind as he's trying to run upfield and get after it. You know what I mean? So that's just me personally. The other parts of the defense that people are asking questions about right now is Emmanuel Forbes. You know what I mean? The rookie cornerback. He played more snaps Sunday against the Eagles than he had all season long. A lot of times he was matched up against Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown. In total, Forbes was targeted 13 times, not all to Brown, but a good amount to Brown. Allowed 9 catches, again, not all to Brown, but a good amount to Brown. 197 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 passes defense and allowed a QBR of 151.4, which is nearly perfect. So not a good day for the young defensive back. And my understanding is he's deactivated his Twitter account, which is unfortunate because that means he's getting a lot of grief. Hopefully not by Commanders fans. Hopefully, I would like to think people understand that we're all human beings and he's not happy about the performance any more than anybody else is, but he's also a young man who is 4 weeks into his professional job trying to get better. But it's also remember that those two PBUs were both nearly interceptions, and close doesn't matter with what happened in week 4, right? It doesn't matter, but it could matter for week 5 against Chicago Bears. It could matter for week 8 when the Commanders see the Eagles again, and so on. So Forbes got worked. There's no denying that. There's no sugarcoating it, but it shouldn't discount that at a lot of other times he was in good position. He made good plays against arguably one of the best receivers in the game, against arguably the best receiving duo in the game, and that's something worth building on. And the key is building on it. Chicago is going to target him. I guarantee you, they've seen the tape. They're going to target him with DJ Moore. They're going to target him with Darnell Mooney. So his bounce back starts now. It doesn't start in week 8. Like week 8 isn't the revenge game. The revenge game is now. You know what I'm saying? And what you like about Emmanuel is if you watch the tape, is that he never stops fighting. Yeah, and everybody saw the sideline, where he's beside himself, he's angry, he's frustrated, you know what I mean, all those things. But after that, there was still a game to play. There's still overtime to play, and he came back and he fought and he played hard. There's a route in overtime that Jalen Hurts tries deep where Forbes is in coverage on Brown, and his coverage is so good that A.J. Brown doesn't even think there's a chance that ball is coming. Never watch him run the route. He just doesn't even think the ball is coming his way. So that's a positive, right? That you just covered one of the best receivers in the NFL so well that he's like, there's no way my quarterback is throwing this ball. Philly tried to hit him with another double move in overtime, and he didn't bite on that one. So again, they lost the game. Emmanuel Forbes gave up a lot of plays. That is fact. But there are some good things there to build on as well. And again, nobody's sugarcoating the bad game that Forbes had, but there are promising signs there. And in week 8, some of that growth could turn 2 PBUs into an interception, maybe 2 interceptions, or it could take longer. He's a rookie at the cornerback position, man. That's one of the toughest, if not the second toughest job to convert into the NFL and from college is cornerback. So, you got to take the bad with the good. And unfortunately, for Emmanuel, just like unfortunately for Sam in week 4 or week 3, their bad as young players came at the expense of a team possibly winning that game. Next question, Locked On Commanders insider Fran texted me and asked, while Justin Fields started out pretty bad, sometimes in dramatic fashion, for weeks 1 through 3, he seemed to rebound in week 4. What can the Commanders do to bring back his week 1 to 3 performance levels? To answer that, I went back and I watched a lot of coaches' tape from the Chicago Bears game against the Denver Broncos, and I'm going to share with you what I saw coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? I know that feeling these days. I'll tell you what. Sometimes you try and focus on one thing, but this other thing, whether it be a problem, an experience, another life event, just keeps getting put in the way, just keeps butting in and will not let you keep your eyes on the prize that you are trying to focus on. Therapy can help you figure out what's holding you back so you can work on yourself instead of against yourself. It helps you for learning positive coping skills, how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who have experienced major traumas. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. You fill out a quick survey. You get paired with a therapist. If you don't like that therapist for whatever reason, doesn't matter what it is, and you want to change, you can change anytime, no questions asked. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Continuing with today's episode, wrapping up today's mailbag episode. I told you there's a lot of information to go through. I am not going to be able to get it all in on this episode, so I will be dropping a bonus episode. Not sure if that's going to be before the game Thursday night because the next question I need to get in can actually wait. So I might drop that on Friday or Saturday. I'm also going to drop my second quarter preview as a bonus episode. I know it's weird because it's going to come after the first game of the second quarter, but I promise you, the projection, the Commanders are going to beat the Chicago Bears. Okay, guys, like that's going to be my projection for the first game of the second quarter. So there will be, if knock on wood it doesn't happen, but if an amazing upset by the Chicago Bears happens, you will not see my bonus second quarter preview episode drop on Friday or Saturday or whatever day it is. Say, oh man, I think the Bears might beat the Commanders. Look how smart I am. Okay, because that's not at all how I see this thing going. And tomorrow, if you watch the crossover, you'll see that Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears agrees with me. So Locked On Commanders insider Fran asked a question. While Justin Fields has been pretty bad for the most part of the season, he had a pretty good week 4. So how do the Commanders prevent Justin Fields from having another career type game for his career? To answer that, I went through the Broncos tape, the Broncos Bears tape. I watched the entire Broncos defense match up against Chicago Bears offense. And when you look at the game flow of that game, the Chicago Bears gained 25 yards on their first possession before punting from around midfield. So, decent movement to start the game, not a scoring drive. But then they cracked off 5 strong drives. The second drive of the game, 9 plays, 75 yards and a touchdown. 3 plays, 49 yards and a touchdown after that. 5 plays, 75 yards and a touchdown after that. 7 plays, 41 yards, halftime after that. 15 plays, 75 yards and a touchdown after that. And those 5 drives right there, the Chicago Bears rattled off 315 yards of offense, 8.07 yards per play, and 63 yards per possession, including the one that ended with halftime. So, but then after that, okay, the Bears had a 3-play drive, 5 yards and a punt, 5-play drive, 10 yards and a fumble. The fumble was returned for a touchdown. 11 plays, 82 yards, turnover on downs, in field goal range to take the lead with less than 3 minutes left in the game. That's a Bears problem, not an us problem, but it's unbelievable. And then ultimately 7-play, 33-yard drive with an interception. So the bottom line is, after those really impressive early drives, the Bears then went on to have 5 yards per play, which is still not terrible, but not as good. 32.5 yards per drive. And really, if you take out that 82-yard drive that they could have taken the lead on, that they didn't take the lead on, you're looking at an even smaller yards per play average and yards per drive average. So basically, Chicago's offense earned the Bears a shot at winning, and their head coach gave it away trying to win better, which when you're 0-3, bro, just take the opportunity to win. You don't need style points here. So what did I say in those first, or not the first 5 drives, but those 5 drives 2 through 6. So here's what I saw drives 2 through 6. Drive 2 was the 9-play, 75-yard drive and a touchdown, right? That's what we saw there. So in that drive, what I saw right off the bat was a whole lot of motion, a whole lot of play action, and a touchdown on an out and up route that really challenged the technique discipline of the Denver Broncos defense. 2 big plays, including the touchdown, took advantage of poor coverage discipline and technique. The TD should not have stood. If you've seen the replay of the DJ Moore touchdown, he did not get the right foot down in bounds. I don't know how that stood. It's not my problem, but it is a problem if it happens again this weekend. So still an impressive drive. They still may have scored a touchdown, but at the end of the day, that play shouldn't have happened. But the reason it happened at all is because of poor coverage discipline and technique on the part of the Denver Broncos secondary. Now, drive 3 was a 3-play drive, 49 yards and a touchdown, more play action, more pre-snap motion, and more undisciplined coverage by the Denver Broncos. On the touchdown play, Broncos linebacker Alex Singleton has zone responsibility on the left side of the defense, and he lets Cole Kmet run right through his zone, right up the seam, unbothered, unencumbered, and it leads directly to the touchdown. The 4th drive of the series, 5 plays, 75 yards and a touchdown, more play action, more motion, right to left, left to right movement in the formation, in the route trees, really testing the discipline of the Broncos defense, and especially the linebackers, Alex Singleton and Drew Sanders. Now, we already talked about Singleton, right? But on this drive, on a 22-yard pass to Cole Kmet, the tight end, Sanders gets completely sucked in by Justin Fields rolling right, leaves his zone completely unaccounted for, and you can see the confusion on Drew Sanders' body language, as he's originally thought that the running back coming into his zone is now on the ground. Sanders didn't know what to do with himself after that kind of I don't know what to do with my hands moment, and it ends up in a 22-yard pass Cole Kmet, because Cole Kmet sneaks through the back end of his zone while Drew Sanders basically sitting there saying, I don't know what to do. Again, rookie, so it's a young guy mistake, right? On the touchdown pass to Kmet at the end of that drive, Kareem Jackson, who we all think probably should have been suspended for that game anyway, breaks away from Cole Kmet in a scramble drill to try to get to Justin Fields. Okay, that's fair. Instead of picking up Cole Kmet from the back end of the scramble drill, though, linebacker Alex Singleton tries to join the pursuit for Justin Fields, runs right by Cole Kmet, doesn't cover him, even though he literally can see Kareem Jackson leaves Cole Kmet to go after Justin Fields. I'm coming in here. What you should do is cover the guy that he just left. What he does, though, is says, I'll add a 3rd or 4th body into this pursuit of Justin Fields, who, by the way, is no longer running towards the goal line. Now he's drifting out of bounds, just looking for a last-second place to put the ball. And Alex Singleton gives him a wide-open tight end for another touchdown where he should have been covering, right? So, again, undisciplined coverage by the Denver Broncos. 5th drive, 7 plays, 41 yards, leads to halftime. Okay, but first half of the Broncos drive, Patrick Surtain, one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL, collapses down on an inside zone while he's got an outside zone, collapses in on the slot receiver. Not even his dude, not even his zone. Leaves DJ Moore completely uncovered on the right boundary. And honestly, Justin Fields actually leads DJ Moore into the deep safety instead of leading him shorter into the vacant zone for an easy pitch and catch. DJ Moore makes the catch anyway, but Justin Fields certainly could have thrown that ball better. I showed that play to my wife, guys, because I was so amazed. I showed that play to my wife, who knows nothing about football, and she immediately said, why did that guy in white just let that other guy run right by him? That's a good stinking question. Bears used less motion, less play action later in that drive, and they eventually stalled and actually had a fourth down try at the end of the half, just trying to do garbage time type stuff. So it actually shows when they don't use motion, when they don't use play action, not as good. 6th play of the drive, 15 plays, or 6th drive of the game, 15 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown, more motion, more play action. Are you catching a theme? On 3rd and 7 from the Denver 26, Broncos cornerback Damari Mathis abandons his zone, allowing Bears receiver Darnell Mooney to catch a crosser moving left to right for a gain of 17 to the Denver 9-yard line. So again, that comes on 3rd and 7. You're about to stop him for a field goal. On a 2-yard touchdown pass to Khalil Herbert, the Bears again use motion. They again use play action. They use a bootleg by Justin Fields. The intended play was to try to open up the middle of the field where Khalil Herbert would be sitting for a back, Justin Fields rolls out, throws it back to a wide open Khalil Herbert. Well, Broncos defensive tackle DJ Jones does a great job, doesn't bite on it, covers Khalil Herbert, which is amazing. But then Khalil Herbert moves and DJ Jones just stands there, and Justin Fields ends up getting a wide open running back for a touchdown pass. So, I mean, just undisciplined coverage, guys. That's at the end of the day, that is what bit the Broncos against Chicago Bears. That's why the Chicago Bears should have won that game. It's why Justin Fields had a career day against them, even though they lost. Drive 7 and 8 combined for 15 yards total. Drive 7, the Broncos defense actually played with really good discipline. Drive 8, much of the same. It actually started going really, really poorly for the Broncos defense, but Justin Fields held on to the ball too long, got strip sacked, led directly to a Broncos touchdown. So that's combined with a boneheaded decision by the head coach to not take the lead near the end of the game, resulted in the Bears' loss. So as long as the Commanders don't show the same amount of mental errors that the Broncos defense did, as long as they don't play with the same lack of discipline that the Bears or the Broncos defense did, they should not be giving up 28 points to Justin Fields and Chicago Bears offense. Also, a good amount of Broncos mistakes came in man, where their corners and linebackers simply couldn't keep up with Bears playmakers, usually running left to right or right to left cross formation. Obviously, while watching the Bears offense work, I also watched the Broncos defense. And from what I saw, it looks like Washington should get a lot of opportunities with inside zone runs, screens, and perimeter passes. Chicago blitzed Denver a good amount of times, I think 8 times total, but they did so at the closed middle of the field. It means if you're blitzing and you've got a closed middle of the field, then your crossing patterns or your boundary patterns are going to be open. Quick outs, sprint outs, all those things are going to be open. So if that happens again against Washington this week, Washington should be able to take advantage of that. So inside zone, screen works. If they blitz, they usually leave the middle of the field closed, which means your perimeter is open. If they blitz up the middle, that usually means a deep middle shot is open. Plenty of opportunities for the Commanders to stay ahead of the chains and come out of week 5, 3-2 as far as I'm concerned. We got another question about a free agent tackle. I still want to give you my keys to the game. So I'm going to try to drop a bonus episode before we get to Thursday Night Football, but we've also got crossover Thursday coming up, and I don't want to crowd the timeline too much. Real quick, in case I can't get to, I'll give you my 3 keys to a Commanders win. The 3 keys to a Commanders win against Chicago Bears: play your defense and play it disciplined. Don't get out of your zones. Don't get sucked in by the motion, the crossers, the bootlegs, the play action. That's number 1. Number 2, take advantage of the running lanes and the screen opportunities. Number 3, prey on the perimeter when it's available. Again, the Bears like to blitz with the closed middle of the field, which means the perimeter is usually a one-on-one coverage. The Bears have got some banged up secondary members, and the secondary members that were healthy weren't all that good to begin with. Terry McLaurin should be able to eat on the outside. Jahan Dotson on crossers. Curtis Samuel on crossers. Sprint outs. Logan Thomas should have a really good day. Maybe we see Cole Turner getting in the end zone. Brian Robinson, I'm starting him in my fantasy league. Those are my 3 keys to a Commanders win. In case I don't get that bonus drop for you, make sure you come back tomorrow for crossover Thursday. In the meantime, if you got questions or more comments, more questions for future mailbags, just throw them into the YouTube comments. Hit me on Twitter or send them to me directly by becoming a Locked Insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Commanders. Got a new insider on Thursday morning, so shout out to Daron for joining the insider program. I appreciate you as always. I thank all of you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day every day. Thanks for coming through on a consistent basis like you do. And thanks so much for making me a part of your day, part of your routine. Until we speak again, please be safe, be kind, and I'll see you right back here next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.